This is a Year 8 English video on Chapter 6 of the novel Once. First thing we draw attention to is the anaphora. Again, we start with once. The book's called Once, and every chapter starts with once. It provides a chapter summary, and it also gives the indication of storytelling. And storytelling is an important aspect of chapter number 6. Felix tells lots of stories. Once upon a time is a contraction. So once leads about storytelling, and it leads into our summary. A repeated word at the beginning of each paragraph or each chapter is called an anaphora. That's what we learnt last video. So the setting of this is really simple. Felix is walking towards the city. We can assume that that city may be Warsaw. That's the capital city of Poland. And it's mentioned in chapter 1 that the Catholic head office was in Warsaw. So he's walking towards the city. He's miles away from the city and he's in the countryside. It's very flat around Warsaw. He sees a fire miles away. So the whole of this chapter takes place in his journey towards the city. We have fields, a house that's burning down, a haystack that he sleeps in. So this walking towards the city through rural parts of Poland. When it comes to the characters in chapter 6, again, because Felix is on a journey by himself, it's really only Felix. But in chapter 6, we meet another important person in this story, and that's the little girl, Zelda. When he finds the house that's burning, and he sees that Zelda's parents are shot, he notices a little girl isn't bleeding, and he gently rolls her over. He finds Zelda in the field. He begins to look after her, and he hauls her on his back and staggers through the smoke and sparks towards the fence. He asks what her name is. She doesn't answer. It's killing him. This is the longest he's ever carried anyone before. And when they find the haystack and he puts her down, he says, "I put my hand gently on her arm. I wish my hand was bigger like Mother Minka's." We can see here that Felix is no longer just focused on finding his parents and just looking at his own needs. He's found a little girl and he's emulating the care of Mother Minka. So the care Mother Minka showed towards him, he is showing towards Zelda. Zelda's just a little girl and he's taking on responsibility for her. Of course, right in the last line, we find the girl giving her name. Her name is Zelda. And we can see Felix trying to cheer her up with storytelling. He sighs when she doesn't enter into the story and the imagination that he's using his imagination to try and cheer her up. I feel really sorry for her. It's really hard being an orphan if you haven't got an imagination. This plays into one of the themes that's very important, the idea of imagination helping you overcome adversity or difficulty. So we have Zelda, a new character that's been introduced this chapter, and Felix's development in his character is that he's no longer focused on himself, but he has someone else to care for, and he focuses upon her. Some of the literary features that are used in chapter 6 we've looked at before. Again, in blue we can see truncated sentences. I stop. Not until the fire. These aren't even sentences, some of them, but they're truncated and shortened to be punchy and to make effect. This builds tension. Here's some more. I go closer. I can see what's burning now. It's not books, it's a house. Short sentences. They've been shot. Then I see the owners. Oh, the feather doesn't move. So all of these are truncated sentences, short, punchy sentences that create tension. On page 54 in chapter 6, we find an example of dramatic irony. I want my mummy and daddy, she howls. So Zelda wants mummy and daddy, but we know, and so does Felix, that her mum and dad are dead, been shot. Felix saw the bullet wounds. Felix goes, at least I've had plenty of time to make a plan. I want mine too, I say. That's why we're going to the city. Keep her hopeful. That's the plan. So we have dramatic irony here between Zelda and us audience. We know that her mum and dad's dead. Felix, however, is claiming that if she goes to the city with him, she will find her parents too. He knows that's not true. Keep her hopeful. That's the plan, he says. Now we have a different type of irony here. We have what's called situational irony. Situational irony is that's what Felix does to himself. He tells himself false things. He invents ad hoc situations in his mind to keep himself hopeful that his parents are alive. So right now he's deceiving himself, keeping himself hopeful, just as he deceives Zelda to keep her hopeful. So we have a double irony here, dramatic irony and situational irony.